let us start converting our game into classes. So the first thing that I want to do is, let me just copy and paste it inside this folder. Let me rename from 3 to 4 and let me change the documentation. So this is where we are trying to improve our design by using classes. So let's see how we can start using classes inside our game. Till now we have been using an alias, but now what we can do is, instead of using an alias for the character, we can actually create a class for character. So let us go right over here and let us create our class for character. So we can say class character. Now let's see what instance variables do we require. Now each of the character has three main things you can see right over here: name, attack power, and life. So we can define these as our instance variables. So let us do that. Define init self. The first is the name, is going to be a string. Attack power, integer. Life is also an integer. This returns nothing. Let me write some documentation saying that this creates an instance of character. So here I can say self.name is equal to the name, self.attack power is equal to the attack power, self.life is equal to the life. Let's also create a nice str method. So we can say define a string method for this one, self, and this always returns a string. And inside, let us make a nice string representation for the character. So I can say the name of the character is self.name, the attack power is going to be self.attack power, and the life is going to be self.life. Let me save it. Next, let us see how we can create superheroes and our villains. Now superheroes can inherit from our character, and our villains can also inherit from our characters. So let's see how to do that. So let's create a class called as superhero. So you can say my class of superhero, this inherits from the character. Let me put some documentation and let us write the init method. Now since this is inheriting from character, I can simply copy and paste all of this. Just copy and paste, and this returns nothing. Now inside, since we are inheriting, we can use the super keyword and we can say super dot init, and we can simply pass the name, attack power, and the life. So the super class of character would be responsible for creating all of these instance variables. Next, we can also create one more instance variable called as a role. So this instance variable can say that this is a superhero or this is a supervillain. In order to define a role, again let us go back and create a nice enum. So let me go to the top, and first thing that I want to do is I want to import. So from enum I want to import my enum, and also I want auto. I can say my class of character type, this inherits from enum. Let me add some documentation. Then I can say superhero and assign it to auto. Then I can say villain and assign it to auto as well. So let me save this and let us go on below. Here I can create one more instance variable. I can say self.role, and this would be equal to my character type dot superhero. Let us also create the str method. So I can say str self, this returns a string. Let me copy and paste all of this. Let me put it here. Now just before the name I can say that this is a superhero, so I can say this is a superhero and put a nice arrow. Now since this line is really long, so we can do one small trick. Let me take it down, and I want to have brackets around this. So this is my opening bracket, and right over here I can put my closing bracket. And what I can do is, let me cut this portion out for the life, and on the next line I can simply again say F and paste it over there, and that's it. So this is also a valid syntax. Next, let us create the same thing for our villain. So I can simply copy all of this, paste it down. So from superhero it becomes my villain, and this has to be my villain, this has to be again my villain. Let us go down, and we don't need all of these things because we already have a class for character. So I can take all of this out. I don't want any of this. Now let's see what we can do with life. With life, I'm going to do a very small trick. I'm going to create a class for life, but all of the methods would be static. That's because I don't want to create an instance of life. It makes no sense. I just want access to hero life and villain life. So let me create it first, and then I will try and explain. So here I can say this is going to be a class of life, and what I want to do is I want to take all of these things inside. So till here all of these things goes inside my class. Now let's start changing them one by one. Now what happens is, you can see these two variables, these are outside my init method, or rather I don't have an init method over here, and that's also perfectly fine. These two variables belongs to the class, so they can also be called as my class variables, and that's what I want. There is one other alternative approach. Let me paste it right over here. That approach is called as data classes, but I'm not going to cover them inside this course. You can use this link to study more about data classes. Now let us continue with our journey. I'm going to use a new decorator which is called as static method. So let me copy, and first let me paste everywhere, and then I will try and explain what's happening. Since this hero life and villain life belongs to the class, I no longer have to use the keyword of global and hero life. So I can take it out. And now what happens is, this hero life is actually a class member of the class of life. So I can simply say life dot hero life plus equal to life. So this means that this hero life variable references exactly this one. Let me save it, and then I will try and explain what this new decorator is doing. Now if you see, I'm not taking the argument as self for static method. That's because this decorator works on the class directly. It does not have to create an instance. Let us go back to our decorators file, and there I will try and demonstrate what's happening. So this is our decorators file. Now let me go back to the diagram itself. So here is our diagram. Again, whenever I'm saying that this is a static method, means that we can call that static method from the class itself. We don't need to create instances. For example, here in our decorators file, you can see that we have this one, datetime.now. No matter whatever the class, you don't need an extra instance. We can have a common functionality. That's what I mean to say by a static method. So basically, static method is just like any other method, but it does not take a self argument because it works directly on the class and not on the instance. Suppose we can create a static method called as describe, and that static method will just describe what this class is going to do. So let's create it and see it in action. So let me go down, And just after this property joint on, I can create my static method. So I can use my decorator of static method. The name would be describe. So again, this is not going to take self, neither this is going to take a class, because this is independent of everything. This is going to return none. Let me write some documentation what's happening. So this method is just going to describe what this class is all about. So I can just print out that this is a class to create a staff member. Now let me go down, and here I can simply call this method on my class. So let me call it at the top. I can say staff dot describe, and since it's a method, I need to use my brackets. That's it. Let me run this file, and here we have the output class to create a staff member. Now using this same concept, let us go back to our game. Now here what happens is we have two class members, hero life and villain life. I want to get access to this variables, and that's what I'm doing right over here by using a static method. You can get a little bit more clarity when we use this method later in this video. For now, let us change all of the syntax. So this one also becomes my static method, and I don't want global, and this becomes my life dot hero life. Same thing for this one. This also becomes my static method. I don't need the global. I can say my life dot villain life, and same thing for this one as well. So this also becomes my static method. I don't need the global, and this is my life dot. That's it. Just save a file. Let us go down. So here what we can say is this is a list of superheroes. So instead of just character, I can say this is my superhero. Next, what I can do is I can create instances of my superhero by using the newly created class. So I can say my Iron Man is a superhero. The name is obviously Iron Man. Next, the attack power is 250 and the life is 1000. So similarly, let us create instances for all of the other superheroes as well. So here we have a Black Widow, Spider-Man and Hulk. Now since we have everything in classes, I don't require this constant, so I can just take them out. They are not required. This becomes a list of superheroes, and I have to change this as well. So Iron Man, Black Widow, Spider-Man and my Hulk. Let us go down. So this, instead of character, we can say this is going to return a superhero. The rest everything remains the same. So let us go down to villains. This is going to be a list of our villains. Again, let us do the same thing. Let us create instances. So I can say my Thanos is equal to my villain. The name is Thanos. My attack power is 400. Life is 1500. Let us create the rest as well. So we have all of them. Let us take out all of this. It's not required. This becomes my villain, and we need to change all of this as well. First is Thanos, then is the Red Skull, and then is Proxima. Let us go down. So this becomes my villain, and everything is looking good. Let us go down and let us see where we need to do some more changes. This becomes a superhero and this becomes a villain. Now let's see where we are going to use the class of life and the static methods that we have created. We are going to use exactly right over here for the set life and for the actual attack. So here I can say from my life, I want to access the static method called as increment hero life, and I simply want to pass the life of the superhero. So I can say my superhero dot life. And we can use this syntax because life is just an instance variable on superhero. So this is the beauty of working with classes. Let us go down. Again, we can do the same thing. We can say from my class of life, I want to access the static method of increment villain life, and I want to pass the life of my villain. We don't need all of these lines. We can take them out. We can do the same thing right over here as well. So I can say life dot, I want to decrement my hero life, and let's pass the attack power of the villain, and same thing below, life dot decrement villain life, and let's pass the superhero attack power. We don't need all of this. We can take it out. Let's save our file. Now let us go to this line. It seems that we have some error, so let's see what's happening. Value of superhero is not indexable. Oh yeah, that's right. Now since this is a class, we have to say superhero dot the name, and here also villain dot name. And now the error is gone. Let us go down, and here what we can do, since hero life and villain life are now the class variables of life, so we can simply say life dot hero life, and here it becomes life dot villain life. And now we have a beautifully typed object oriented game design. So let me save my file and let me try to run this. Now that's really amazing. Everything is working perfect, and it seems that I have also won the game.